I'm Victoria Lane, 34 years old. For as long as I can remember, my parents always claimed they couldn't afford to celebrate me. But when it came to my brother, money magically appeared out of nowhere. When he turned 18, they threw a grand party in an upscale ballroom. Live band, towering cake, the works. That custom cake alone cost more than my first car. My birthday, on the other hand? A store-bought cupcake and a $10 gift card accompanied by my mom's usual line, "Money's tight, honey." I'd smile, swallow the hurt, and say nothing. Years of being invisible became my drive. While my parents showered my brother with praise and investment, I fought my way forward. Through college, endless nights of coding, and every seed of doubt they'd ever planted in me. Bit by bit, I built my own path. I launched a tech startup from the ground up and turned it into a thriving company. Eventually, I bought a gorgeous beachfront mansion in Destin, Florida, the very kind of house my parents once said I'd never have. That day, I posted a single line on Facebook. "Thanks, family," for the motivation. Their jealous calls and messages came pouring in, demanding explanations, but I didn't owe them a word. My success said everything. Before I go on with the rest of my story, tell me, what time is it where you are, and what city are you watching from? I'd love to know how far my story's reached. Every family has favorites. In mine, it was never me. And the proof showed up at every birthday, every graduation. My parents always put Brandon first. I was the afterthought. For his 16th birthday, they hosted a huge party at a fancy Louisville restaurant, private dining room, steak dinners, and a DJ spinning his favorite songs. Dad handed him the keys to a shiny new red Mustang, wrapped in a giant bow. While the neighbors applauded like it was a parade, I stood off to the side, smiling through the sting, watching Mom straighten Brandon's tie and call him the star of the night. My 16th birthday? A boxed cake baked at home, 3 friends sitting in our living room, and a stack of my cousin's hand-me-down clothes as my gift. When I asked Mom why Brandon got a car while I got secondhand sweaters, she sighed, "Money's tight, honey. You know that." But I'd seen the restaurant bill. I knew better. It wasn't just birthdays. Whenever Brandon's grades dropped, they hired private tutors and bragged about his potential over dinner. Meanwhile, I taught myself algebra, staying up past midnight with borrowed library books. When I joined the debate team hoping to stand out, Mom barely noticed my first win. She was too busy organizing Brandon's next hockey tournament. He got brand new gear every season. I wore sneakers full of holes until I could afford new ones myself. At 14, I started babysitting and saving every dollar in a tin under my bed. I refused to beg for leftovers of their attention. The favoritism hurt most in the little things. Once, I caught Mom framing one of Brandon's average report cards to show off to her book club, while my straight-A transcript earned a quick, "Nice job," before she changed the subject. At a family picnic, Dad spent an hour discussing Brandon's college plans, while I sat nearby sketching quietly in a notebook I'd bought with my babysitting money. I stopped expecting their attention after that. Instead, I poured everything into debate. When I made it to regionals, my teammate Sarah high-fived me and gave me a cheap little keychain saying, "You're unstoppable." That meant more to me than any praise from home. By junior year, I'd stopped waiting for things to be fair. I picked up extra babysitting shifts and saved for a future I could control. One night at dinner, Brandon bragged about his new scholarship and Dad toasted him with a glass of wine. I mentioned my debate team's qualification for state. Mom nodded, then immediately asked Brandon about his coach. I excused myself, slipped another $10 into my savings tin, and promised I'd build a life where their approval didn't matter. That promise became my anchor. College was my chance to start fresh. I left Louisville and headed to the University of Kentucky in Lexington with a full scholarship I'd earned on my own. It covered tuition? Barely, so I picked up a part-time job at a local bakery, kneading dough at sunrise to pay for books and rent. The work was exhausting. Flour in my hair, burns on my arms, but it was mine. I didn't ask my parents for help, knowing any spare cash would go straight to Brandon anyway. I shared a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, lived off instant noodles, and studied until my eyes ached. Every late shift and every A I earned felt like proof that I didn't need their approval. I still called home occasionally, mostly out of habit. Mom would go on and on about Brandon. His new job, his apartment, his latest achievements. The one time I mentioned acing a coding exam, she said, "That's nice," before changing the subject back to him. Dad wasn't much better. A generic monthly text. "Keep your head down." I stopped expecting more. My energy went into my computer science classes. I started building small apps for fun and dreaming of something bigger. My professor, Dr. Hayes, saw my potential and encouraged me to enter a campus hackathon. I came in second place, clutching a certificate that meant more to me than any gift my parents had ever given. When graduation came around, I sent Mom and Dad invitations, hoping they'd come. I'd spent 4 grueling years balancing shifts and exams to graduate with honors. The night before the ceremony, Mom texted, "We're tied up with Brandon's event. You understand?" I stared at the message, feeling the words hit like stones. Brandon's event turned out to be a backyard barbecue at his house in Louisville, for his coworkers and a few clients. Later, a cousin told me what I'd missed. A sprawling tent, a caterer grilling prime rib, and a bartender mixing cocktails all night. Meanwhile, at my own ceremony, I crossed the stage alone, my name echoing through a half-empty auditorium. My roommates cheered from the stands, waving a handmade sign like it was the Super Bowl. Their excitement lifted me, but my family's absence cut deep. The next morning, I called Mom to ask why they'd chosen Brandon's party over my graduation. Her answer was curt. "His event was important for his career, honey. We'll celebrate you later." But later never came. I hung up, my chest tight, and deleted the photos of myself in cap and gown. That was the moment everything clicked. I wasn't just second to Brandon. I barely registered at all unless it benefited them. After that, I stopped calling home. I poured my time and energy into coding projects instead. I started sketching out an idea for an app, a space for creators to share quick, engaging videos. Something bold and original. My roommates became my brainstorming team, their enthusiasm louder than the silence from Louisville. The hurt turned into fuel. I picked up extra shifts at the bakery, saving every tip for my project. Late nights were spent in the computer lab, teaching myself new programming languages. Dr. Hayes introduced me to a local tech meetup where I nervously pitched my concept. A few people clapped. One guy offered feedback. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me moving forward. I realized I didn't need my parents' approval to make it. I'd build my own success, line by line, until they had no choice but to notice. After graduation, I threw myself into the tech world. Lexington wasn't Silicon Valley, but there were enough startups to get my foot in the door. I landed a job at a small firm debugging a clunky app no one used. The pay barely covered rent, but it was a start. I found a tiny studio, furnished it with thrift store finds, and spent my nights sketching plans for something bigger. That something became VibeStream, a platform for creators to post short, dynamic videos focused on local artists and niche communities. I came up with the name during a late-night coffee run, scribbling it on a napkin. VibeStream was my proof that I was more than my family's afterthought. I poured every spare hour into coding, often until my fingers cramped. One afternoon, a coworker named Brian Kim, a sharp developer with a good eye for potential, caught me refining the app during lunch. "That's slick," he said, peering at my screen. "You should pitch this somewhere real." I laughed it off. But Brian wasn't one to drop things. A week later, he emailed me. A tech conference was coming up in Louisville, the kind that drew investors and startup founders. "You're presenting VibeStream," he wrote. "I already signed you up." Panic hit immediately. I hated public speaking, but Brian's confidence in me made it hard to say no. Preparing for that conference consumed me. I polished the interface, added filters, and practiced my pitch until I could recite it in my sleep. Brian quizzed me with mock Q&As. "What's your revenue model?" "Why not just copy TikTok?" I learned to answer fast and sharp. My other coworkers, a tight group of designers and coders, pitched in too. Sarah, our UX designer, refined the logo. Mark, our back-end guy, improved the upload system. They weren't just colleagues anymore. They were the family I'd built for myself, filling the space my real one left empty. Their faith in me drowned out Mom's distant, "That's nice," from years before. The day of the conference, I was a nervous wreck. My hands shook as I clutched the USB with my demo. Brian sat in the front row, giving me a thumbs up. When I stepped onto the stage, my voice trembled. But as I talked about VibeStream, about amplifying local voices and connecting creators in overlooked ways, the words started to flow. Investors leaned in. Some took notes. When I wrapped up, a few people clapped, and one man in a suit asked for my card. I didn't have one, so I scribbled my email on a scrap of paper. Backstage, Brian handed me a coffee. "You nailed it," he said. "This is just the beginning." That's when I spotted Katie Sullivan, an old high school friend from debate team, waving from the back. She'd seen my post online and showed up to cheer me on. "Didn't know you were a tech star now." she teased, snapping a selfie with me afterward. We celebrated that night with cheap beers at a dive bar. Sarah raised her glass. To proving them wrong, she said. I clinked my bottle against hers, thinking of the family who never would. Not long after, Vibestream began to take off. A local musician used it to post her videos, and her fans spread the word. Soon, I quit my job to focus on it full-time, scraping by on savings and freelance gigs. But for the first time, I felt seen. My family's sudden burst of interest didn't move me. The calls started the day after my post went live. The first was from Mom, her voice dripping with sweetness. "Honey, that villa is gorgeous," she said. "We'd love to come see it. Maybe spend a weekend together and reconnect." I gripped the phone. My jaw locked. Reconnect. They hadn't reached out since Brandon's wedding, the same one where they told me I wouldn't fit in with their high-class friends. Before I could even think about it, Dad called next, full of forced cheer. "Let's throw a big party at your place," he said. "Show everyone what you've built." Then Brandon followed, casual and confident as always. "Sis, that house is unreal. Mind if Erica and I come by?" Every word felt like they wanted a piece of my success, not reconciliation. I didn't answer right away. Their voices kept echoing in my head, each one a reminder of years spent overlooked. When I finally called Mom back, I decided to say everything I'd kept inside. "You want to reconnect now?" I asked, steady but cold. "Where were you when I graduated college? You skipped it for Brandon's barbecue. You didn't even invite me to his wedding because I wasn't suitable. And don't forget the hand-me-downs while Brandon got a brand new Mustang." Silence hung heavy before she replied, her tone tight. "We did our best. You're being unfair." "Unfair?" I laughed, short and sharp. "You brag about my villa to your friends, but never once asked about my work. I don't need your approval anymore." When I called Dad, he interrupted before I could finish. "We're family, Victoria. Why hold grudges? Let us visit. We'll make it right." I didn't let him steer the conversation. "You made it clear I was always second to Brandon," I said. "You threw him a huge 16th birthday and gave me a boxed cake. You paid for his tutors and left me to figure out school on my own. Everything I have, I earned myself. You don't get to claim it now." He stammered, insisting I was twisting things, but I hung up, hands shaking. I wasn't twisting anything. I was stating facts. Brandon's call came last, his voice light and friendly. "Come on, sis. Let's move past all that. We'll have fun at your place." I didn't hold back. "You got everything handed to you," I said. "The car, the parties, the wedding I wasn't invited to. I'm done being your afterthought. My home is for people who actually showed up for me, like Katie and Brian." His tone hardened. "You're acting like we're strangers. We're your family." I ended the call without another word. Diane and Corey got short texts instead. My villa wasn't available for their vacations. Diane replied, "Don't be so cold." And Corey sent something passive-aggressive about success changing me. I deleted both messages. None of it surprised me. Mom called again, this time pleading. "We just want to be part of your life," she said. "You had years to do that," I told her. "I share my life with people who cared before I had a villa." Dad sent a long text about family unity. I didn't answer. Brandon posted a vague status about ungrateful people, obviously aimed at me. I let it slide. I'd spent too long chasing their approval, and now I was finally free. My team, Brian, Sarah, and the rest, were my real family, celebrating every win with no hidden agenda. Katie texted that week. "Heard about the family drama. You okay?" I sent her a smiley face and a screenshot of my latest Vibestream stats. That said enough. By the next summer, my life was fully my own. No calls, no texts, no guilt. My villa in Destin became my refuge, filled with laughter from the people who'd stood by me from the start. I hosted a party to celebrate Vibestream hitting 10 million users, a milestone that felt like a silent middle finger to everyone who doubted me. Brian joked about our early days coding on a wobbly table. Sarah brought her famous brownies, and my team mingled with local creators who'd grown their brands through my app. Katie showed up too, sipping her drink and laughing about our high school debate days. She wasn't there to fix anything, just to share the moment like everyone else. Word eventually reached me about my family's struggles. A mutual acquaintance said Brandon was having a rough time. He'd been relying on Erica's income, but she'd lost a big client, and their finances were crumbling. Their marriage was unraveling. Arguments, missed bills, his spending out of control. They sold their fancy Louisville condo to cover debts, far from the lavish wedding they once flaunted. Mom and Dad weren't doing better. Still in their old house, they seemed lonely, wandering through rooms too big for two. They reached out again after that, leaving voicemails about starting fresh. I never called back. Their regret came too late, and it didn't change who they were. I didn't gloat. Their struggles weren't my triumph. My life was. That party in Destin proved it. I'd built something real. I'd clawed my way from being the forgotten kid, excluded from birthdays and weddings. Every milestone, graduating college, launching VibeStream, buying my villa, was mine alone. I learned that self-reliance isn't just about getting by. It's about thriving without anyone's approval. Setting boundaries wasn't easy, but it protected my peace. My real family wasn't the one I was born into. It was people like Katie, Brian, and my team who showed up without expecting anything in return. Looking back, I'd tell anyone stuck in a family that plays favorites, you don't have to stay in their shadow. Build your own path. Surround yourself with people who see your worth, and don't be afraid to walk away from those who don't. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Thanks for listening to my story. Have you ever dealt with favoritism in your family? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if my story resonated with you, hit like and subscribe for more stories like this one. My family's sudden concern didn't touch me. The calls began the day after my post went up. The first buzz on my phone showed Mom's name. Her voice dripped with sugar. "Sweetheart, that villa is gorgeous," she gushed. "We'd love to come see it. Maybe we could have a family weekend, reconnect a bit." I clenched the phone, my jaw tight. Reconnect. They hadn't reached out once since Brandon's wedding. The one where they told me I wouldn't fit in with their upscale crowd. Before I could process it, Dad called next, his tone booming and cheerful. "Let's throw a big party at your place," he said. "Show everyone what you've built." Then Brandon chimed in, as laid back as ever. "Sis, that house is insane. Mind if Erica and I swing by?" Every word felt like they were grasping for a piece of my success, not like they wanted to make things right. I didn't answer right away. Their voices looped in my head, reminders of years spent on the sidelines. When I finally called Mom back, I didn't hold back. "So now you want to reconnect?" I asked evenly. "Where were you when I graduated college? You skipped it for Brandon's barbecue. You didn't even invite me to his wedding because I wasn't appropriate. And don't think I forgot all those hand-me-downs while Brandon got a Mustang." A heavy pause. Then her voice tightened. "We did our best. You're being unfair." "Unfair?" I laughed, sharp, cold. "You brag about my villa to your friends, but you've never once asked about my work. I don't need your approval anymore." Dad was worse. When I called, he interrupted before I finished. "We're family, Victoria. Why hang on to old grudges? Let us visit. We'll make it right." I didn't let him take control. "You made it clear I was second to Brandon," I said. "He got the big 16th birthday bash. I got a boxed cake. You paid for his tutors and left me to figure out school alone. Everything I have, I built myself. You don't get to claim it now," he sputtered. "You're twisting things." But I hung up, my hands trembling. I wasn't twisting anything. It was the truth. Brandon called last, still trying to charm his way through it. "Come on, sis. Let's move past all that. We'll have a blast at your place." I didn't sugarcoat it. "You had everything handed to you," I said. "The car, the parties, the wedding I wasn't invited to. I'm done being your afterthought. My home is for the people who showed up, like Katie and Brian." His tone sharpened. "You're acting like we're strangers. We're your family." I ended the call without another word. Diane and Corey got short texts instead. Simple and final. My villa wasn't available for their vacations. Diane replied, "Don't be so cold." Corey sent something passive-aggressive about success changing me. I deleted them both. None of it surprised me. Mom called again, her voice pleading. "We just want to be part of your life." "You had years for that," I told her. "I share my life with the people who cared before I had a villa." Dad texted a long message about family unity. I ignored it. Brandon posted a vague status about ungrateful people, clearly aimed at me. I let it slide. I'd spent too many years chasing their validation. Now I was free. Brian, Sarah, and the rest of my team were my real family, the ones who celebrated every win without strings attached. Katie texted that week. "Heard about the family drama. You okay?" I sent back a smiley and a screenshot of my latest VibeStream stats. That said everything. By the next summer, my life was completely my own. No calls, no texts, no guilt. My villa in Destin became my refuge, filled with laughter from the people who'd stood by me since day one. I threw a party to celebrate VibeStream. hitting 10 million users, a milestone that felt like a quiet middle finger to everyone who doubted me. Brian cracked jokes about our early coding days on a shaky table. Sarah brought her famous brownies. The rest of the team mingled with creators who'd grown their brands through my app. Katie showed up too, sipping her drink and laughing about our old debate club days. She wasn't there to fix me, just to celebrate. Word eventually spread about my family's troubles. A mutual friend mentioned Brandon had hit a rough patch. He'd relied on Erica's income, but she lost a major client and their finances crumbled. Their marriage was falling apart. Arguments, overdue bills, his spending out of control. They'd sold their fancy Louisville condo just to stay afloat. So much for the glittering wedding they'd flaunted years before. Mom and Dad weren't doing better either. Still in their old house, friends said they seemed lonely, wandering through rooms that felt too big now. They tried reaching out again after that, leaving voicemails about starting fresh. I didn't respond. Regret doesn't rewrite history. I didn't gloat. Their downfall wasn't my victory. My life was. That night in Destin, surrounded by the people who truly mattered, I realized what I'd built was real. I had climbed from being the overlooked kid who got forgotten at birthdays and uninvited to weddings. Every milestone, college graduation, launching VibeStream, buying my villa, was mine alone. I learned that self-reliance isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving without needing anyone's approval. Setting boundaries was hard, but it protected my peace. My real family wasn't the one I was born into. It was the people like Katie, Brian, and my team who showed up without expecting anything in return. Looking back, I'd tell anyone stuck in a family that plays favorites, you don't have to stay in their shadow. Build your own path. Surround yourself with people who recognize your worth. And don't be afraid to walk away from those who don't. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Thanks for hearing my story. Have you ever faced favoritism in your family? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if my story resonated, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this one.